What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Draft Report. In today's video, we'll be talking about Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. So let's get into the film. The first thing that stands out about Penix is the amazing arm talent. This plays a good example of that. Against Oregon, they're going to be running a cover 2 man concept where this deep safety has half the field, this deep safety has half the field, and then underneath it's straight up man coverage. The way to beat this defense is either through the seam between the two halves or out on the boundaries, and it's a good defense to attack vertically. So Penix is really going to be aggressive here, trying to get this downfield, and we're going to see a little seam up and out to get down the sideline, and Penix fits this in a super tight window. We can see when he's throwing this, pressure comes in, and he's throwing to this guy here who's not really covered, and we can see right here, while it's open, this is going to have to be a very tight throw because this guy's only about a half step behind, and this guy's converging on it, so this needs to be pretty much in a perfect area, like right there. And of course, where's Penix going to put this? With max velocity, he's able to fit this into a super tight window. Absolutely elite ball placement in the one area of the field where he could put this. If this isn't a perfectly placed throw with that much velocity, it's not getting caught and it's very likely getting picked, but his arm talent allows him to be so aggressive downfield. Here's another example against Michigan State, throwing an absolutely beautiful deep ball right in the bucket to Odunze. Just nice, calm, puts air under it, and then Odunze doesn't even have to move his hands, hits him right in the chest. Amazing throw. Here's another one from early in the season. This time he's throwing an outside release streak. He throws it from his own 37 under pressure, just launches it downfield, 53 yards in the air, hits his receiver in stride. While Penix has a very good arm, I wouldn't say his deep ball is necessarily as great as the numbers would say. A lot of his success is dependent on his receivers because at the end of the day, deep ball accuracy is just as much a receiver stat as it is a quarterback stat. And on a play like this isn't really Penix throwing an amazing pass. It's more Odunze going up and getting it and making an amazing catch, which was very common this season. Penix also commonly overthrows his deep ball, like right here. This time his receiver comes wide open over the top of the defense, and he just completely misses him. He has very high flashes of deep ball accuracy and placement, but at the end of the day, his consistency just isn't as good as the arm talent is. He only had a 44% completion rate on 20 yards or more passes, which for a guy who gets hyped up of having this elite arm, which he does, his deep ball accuracy is not as good as you'd like it to be. Penix also displays some accuracy issues on the short and intermediate throws. This mostly comes from his unconventional sidearm release that oftentimes leaves the ball hanging up, as you see here. This time it's just a simple little out route to the outside. Receiver is wide open when he throws this, just needs to put it out in front of him, and he just airmails it, can't pick up the first down. Here's another one from that same game. This time there's going to be a little slot corner blitz, and he's throwing a little screen pass out to the outside. He kind of slings this. Not his normal throwing motion. He kind of changes his motion because of the pressure. Ball comes out low, isn't able to get his receiver. Like his deep throws, he shows very high flashes of ball placement, and when he gets his mechanics lined up right, he can fit into some absolutely tight windows, as we see here. A little out route over the middle of the field, and there's really only one area he can put this. This defender's all over his receiver, and he has to throw this in the face of pressure with zip, right on the money, and what's he going to do? Put it in the one place where his receiver can go and get it out of the defender's outstretched arms. Like, if he does more of this, using that arm talent to fit into tight windows, he'll be elite, but he just needs to fix up the little mechanical flaws in his game. Penix does a very good job reading the field from the pocket. As we see here, there's going to be two curls here, and they're choosing between this linebacker. Penix does a great job. This linebacker has to choose between these two curls. As soon as this linebacker gets out of the window of this receiver and gets downhill towards that guy, he hits his receiver on target with good timing. And you can see as soon as this linebacker leaves that window, he's throwing into that hole. Here's another play from that same game showing a good job getting to the backside of a progression. It's supposed to be a little designed rollout out to the right. He realizes nothing's open, flips back, gets his eyes downfield, finds this receiver in a tight window here, zips it in there. Here's another example, does a good job quickly getting off this read. He's looking for this curl route here, sees that it's covered, quickly gets off that read, gets to the backside of the play, hits his receiver. Penix can be a little slow to get off his reads, like here we see it's a two-step read over here, and as soon as he hits the top of his drop that's obviously not open, if he flips his head to the middle of the field, he could see this curling receiver wide open with no one in range, but he's not able to do that, flat-footed in the pocket, and then ends up having to just throw it away. Penix didn't have to execute reads very quickly in college because his line was so good. They won the award for best line in college football, and they just gave him pockets like this all the time, just giving him 5+ seconds to throw and read out the entire field, so he could spend 2-3 seconds on one read and then throw it out of bounds if nothing was open. But this won't work at the next level. He's going to need to speed up his process just a little bit and be able to read the full field a little quicker. Penix also shows a good ability to throw with anticipation as a passer. Here he is targeting an outside curl route, and he throws this before the receiver breaks. You can see he moves in the pocket, and then before his receiver turns his back to him, he's already getting rid of this ball. He can see this corner's hips are turned, expecting a vertical route, and he knows this corner is not going to be able to get back on it fast enough, puts it on his receiver before the corner can get back downhill. He also displays good timing and rhythm as a passer, as we see here. Does a good job, takes the snap, hits the top of his drop, finds his receiver, hits him. Nothing special, but the ability to be consistent and good timing and rhythm in the short game is pretty important. One area where Penix struggles as a passer is throwing with touch. This plays a good example of that. He's trying to throw over this roaming linebacker into this tight end, and if he just throws this with a little loft, he can hit his tight end in space, but he always throws with max velocity, and as we see here, that gives the linebacker a chance to tip it. Luckily for him, his guy catches it off the tip and then takes it for a couple extra yards into the house, but, that's just luck. He needs to learn how to throw it with touch over roaming linebackers and over hook defenders like this to really be a true passer at the next level. One area where Penix is really good is his poise under pressure. Here he is, 4th and 3 in the national championship game. Pressure comes at him from 3 angles. Does a good job just calmly throwing it to his receiver, hitting him for the touchdown. Good at moving within the pocket, as we see here. This time there's going to be a straight rush up the middle. He sends the running back out. He does a great job maneuvering the pocket here. Just slides to his left, hits the dig over the middle. Here's another example from that same game. Here, pressure comes off the edge, does a great job just calmly sliding up and then hitting his receiver for the touchdown. Penix shows high flashes of pocket presence, and he's very good at moving in the pocket, but his mechanics and accuracy under pressure aren't very good. He only had a 66% catchable pass rate on pressured passes, which was ranked very low in the FBS this year, and a lot of passes looked like this. He's used to holding the ball so long that he just gets kind of flat-footed, and then once the pressure comes in, he kind of slings it out there with sidearm release, and then he doesn't give his receiver a chance to catch it. The last area of his game I want to talk about is his mobility. He really provides next to nothing as a rusher. This season, when you factor out scrambles, he still only had 100 rushing yards and only 23 attempts. This plays a typical example. The pocket kind of breaks down, and a lot of guys right here, like Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, even like Justin Herbert, can break free of this and maybe even pick up a first. But Penix just really doesn't have the mobility to break free of that, and he's not very agile, so he just gets sacked in the backfield. I think he's actually going to test pretty decent at the combine when it comes to just straight speed, but when you watch the game, he doesn't provide much as a runner. Here's another play from the Arizona game. He's so used to just being flat-footed. This time pressure comes at him pretty quickly, and when he tries to elude that, he just doesn't really have any agility to get out of this and break sacks, even though he does do a good job avoiding sacks in general. So that's going to wrap up the film portion of today's breakdown. I just want to show some highlights while I give a final thoughts on Penix. So before even diving into the film, you have to understand this is a 6-year college quarterback that had 4 of his seasons ended by season-ending injuries, 2 ACLs and then 2 dislocated shoulders, 1 on his throwing shoulder, and so that immediately is a red flag. A 24-year-old quarterback, when he makes his first start, that has extensive injury history, teams are really going to be worried about that, and I am concerned that that could come up at the next level. One, because quarterbacks that are that old typically don't have success, and anyone who's had 4 season-ending injuries in a 6-year span is a pretty worrying thing. But when you factor that out as a player, I think as a pocket passer, he's very good. He's good under pressure. His accuracy is maybe not great, and he can hold the ball a little too long. But overall, he does a good job avoiding pressure and is avoiding sacks. He's amazing. Sub 10% pressure to sack rate, which is unbelievable. And if you can avoid sacks, you'll be able to get on the field at the next level. And then he can fit in super tight windows because his arm strength is elite. He's very aggressive targeting those windows, near 11 yards per target, or ADOT, which I really like. I like that aggression. He did it throwing 11 picks, but he also played 15 games. So, less than a pick a game, not terrible stats, especially when you're throwing that far downfield. So I like his aggressiveness overall and his arm talent. But his accuracy on a play-to-play basis is not there, especially under pressure. Only 66% of his passes were catchable under pressure, as I mentioned, which was very low for FBS. And just overall, his completion stats aren't the best. But I think I like the upside he has because of his arm talent and the flashes, super high flashes of ball placement. I mean, that Texas game, he was throwing lasers all over the field. So I think if we can get more of that, he'll be better. But then the one thing I really don't like about him is that when the play breaks down, he just provides nothing. Like I said, when you factor out sacks and kneels, he still only had 100 yards rushing on like 20 attempts. Like he just really has no rushing ability. I think he's actually a decent athlete, but just with all the injuries, he just doesn't want to run, and he shows some pretty tight hips, so he's not going to break you out in space or really be able to avoid defenders. So he's really nothing when the play breaks down, and out of structure, he's not very good. Throwing on the run, he's not very good. So he's pretty much limited to being a pocket passer, and even when it comes to pocket passing, he's not perfect because his accuracy isn't great. Even though I think he does read the field at above average level for a prospect, he could be a little quicker getting through reads, but his throwing with timing and anticipation is pretty good. So he's very good as a pocket passer, but if your ceiling is just a above average pocket passer, how high should he be drafted? In my opinion, mid third round is fair for him. 6.17 on my 8-point scale, and then with the QB bonus, maybe like a late second round pick. I just don't think the ceiling is there for a guy that can't really provide much when the play breaks down. And he has a cannon of an arm, but he's still not completely there as a pocket passer. And then obviously his floor is so low because of the injury history and the age. So I just don't think he's worth being taken, especially in the first round. And even honestly in the second, I'd be weary of taking him anywhere in the top half of the second round. But, late second round, I could get behind it, especially for a quarterback needy team. And overall player comp, I kind of like Jared Goff as like a high-end comp. Jared Goff's not great, but he might win a Super Bowl in a couple weeks, so you can't really knock him too much. But he's a guy that's not really breaking out plays with his legs, but he can beat you from within the pocket because he has a good arm, because he has the ideal size and everything. He does a good job avoiding sacks. So I think if Penix stays healthy, he could maybe be a Jared Goff level player, but I would not take a Jared Goff level player anywhere above like the mid-second round. So that's what I think of Penix as a prospect. High flashes, but the floor is very low. So that's going to wrap up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.